So, imagine you receive this beautifully structured classical Chinese poem.
Okay.
You're looking at the elegant calligraphy on the page, feeling the rhythmic flow of the characters, reading this really profound imagery about like spreading wings and gathering elites.
Right. And your first instinct, naturally, is just to assume this must have been unearthed from some thousand-year-old archive.
Exactly. You'd think it's a relic from a bygone dynasty, like a message from an ancient scholar who's been gone for centuries.
For sure.
But, and here's the paradox that's driving our deep dive today, what if that perfectly structured classical poem was actually written yesterday? Like specifically to speak to our modern lives.
Yeah, that completely changes the context.
It really does.
That's-
So today we are immersing ourselves in a poem titled Gathering of Elites, or Kunyingshang. And the author is actually a contemporary living creator who goes by the pen name Poetic Mindfulness.
Which is such a fascinating project.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore how this living author uses the really strict, yet surprisingly playful boundaries of an ancient poetic framework to deliver this highly relevant modern message.
I mean, it forces a complete recalibration of how we view classical poetry, We have this tendency to just put these forms behind glass in a museum. We treat them as these untouchable historical artifacts.
Like they're dead languages or something.
Exactly. But diving into Poetic Mindfulness's work proves that these ancient frameworks are still breathing. They're actually incredibly robust vehicles.
Capable of capturing modern anxieties and triumphs.
Yeah. Entirely capable of capturing the complexities of the modern human experience. We aren't analyzing the reflections of someone from a millennia ago here. We're looking at a modern, original literary creation.
And the container they chose for this modern creation is very specific. The sources indicate it's a 7-character ancient verse.
Yeah.
So for those of us who, don't spend our weekends analyzing classical Chinese literature, what does it actually mean for the reading experience?
Well, the term in Chinese is qianggushi. And the distinction we really have to make right away is that ancient verse is vastly different from its more rigid cousin, which is the 7-character regulated verse, or qiangnushi.
Okay, so regulated verse is the strict one.
Extremely strict. It operates almost like a mathematical equation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it has these incredibly tight constraints regarding tonal patterns, mandatory parallel couplets in the middle stanzas, uncompromising rhyming schemes. It's a lot.
That sounds exhausting to write.
It is, but the ancient verse form, the one Poetic Mindfulness employs here, it's older and actually far more flexible.
So it gives the creator room to breathe.
Exactly. It gives them the space to prioritize raw emotion, narrative flow, and crucially for this poem, structural playfulness.
Right.
But it still maintains that defining 7-character per line heartbeat. And that heartbeat is so crucial to how the poem feels. Well, when you read 7 characters in classical Chinese, it usually falls into a really natural cadence. So often like a 4 then 3 rhythm or 2-2-3 rhythm.
So it physically changes how you consume the words.
Yeah, that cadence basically acts as a metronome for the reader's breath. It forces a very specific pacing. You literally cannot speed read a 7-character ancient verse and actually absorb it.
It slows you down.
It naturally slows your mind down. It pauses your internal monologue, which in turn gives every single word massive emotional weight. You're forced to dwell on the imagery rather than just, parsing the information.
I love that. And, if the rhythmic structure forces us to slow down and pay attention, it also provides the perfect cover for a hidden layer.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about the actual architecture of this piece, because the way this poem is built is just wild.
The structure itself is a vital living piece of the artwork here. The author uses an acrostic structure, which is known as kang tu shi.
Okay, so when I hear acrostic, my mind instantly goes back to those poems we wrote in grade school.
Right.
Where you spell out your dog's name down the left side of the page and try to force a sentence to start with each letter.
Yeah. The basic concept is similar. The first characters of each line, when you read them vertically down the page, form a hidden message of their own.
Right.
But executing this in classical Chinese, within the metrical constraints of a 7-character ancient verse, That requires immense intellectual and creative rigor.
Because you're playing 3D chess with the words.
Exactly. You are simultaneously operating on two intersecting axes of meaning.
You have to balance the horizontal with the vertical.
Yes. Because if the horizontal line, those 7 characters, if that doesn't paint a beautiful, coherent, poetic image, the poem fails as a piece of literature.
It just feels forced and clunky.
Right. But if the vertical message breaks the flow or doesn't make sense, well, then the acrostic fails.
So the vocabulary is restricted from the jump.
Severely restricted. The very first character of every single thought is predetermined by the hidden vertical message they want to convey. So the structural design isn't just some gimmick to make words fit into a neat little box.
It's deeper than that.
It adds an entirely new layer of playfulness and hidden meaning right beneath the surface of the text.
Let me be honest for a second, though.
Sure.
In our current world of, like, microscopic attention spans, endlessly scrolling feeds, quick hot takes, would a modern recipient even notice a vertical hidden message in a classical poem? Like, does anyone actually look that closely anymore?
See, that skepticism points directly to why this format is so powerful today. The hidden layer demands a second look. It is an intentional disruption of how we normally consume text. When the recipient eventually notices that hidden vertical message, the realization of the sheer effort required to construct it creates this profound moment of connection.
It's the gift of unseen effort.
Exactly.
It actually reminds me of how modern software developers hide complex Easter eggs in video games or mobile apps.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Because on the surface, the software runs beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
The graphics are great. The mechanics make sense. You could play it for hundreds of hours and be totally satisfied. But if you know where to look, if you just shift your perspective slightly, there is this secret, personalized layer of genius waiting to be discovered.
And the intentionality is what matters there. An Easter egg requires extra code, extra late nights, extra effort from the developer. It's a reward for the observant user.
Right.
And in the same way, poetic mindfulness is rewarding the reader who pauses long enough to truly look. Classical poetry forms aren't just stagnant relics gathering dust. Modern creators are injecting them with modern thought, their own life experiences, and these brilliant structural puzzles to invent entirely new, interactive ways of expressing themselves.
So, okay, if the structure is a hidden puzzle requiring us to slow down, let's look at the wrapping paper. Let's look at the overt imagery, starting right at the top with the title itself. Gathering of Elites.
Yes, Kuan Yin Sheng.
Now, when I hear that phrase, my mind instantly pictures, like, a VIP room.
Oh, sure.
I think of ancient aristocrats in silk robes, or maybe today's billionaire tech CEOs at some exclusive mountain retreat. It feels incredibly exclusive, and honestly, maybe even a bit stressful. Does this poem demand perfection from its recipient?
The classical wrapping of the poem certainly invites that assumption, but the contemporary nature of the author completely flips the script.
How so?
In this poem, the concept of elites, or Kuan Yin, is not about historical legends or exclusive bloodlines or an untouchable upper class. The poem fundamentally redefines what it means to be part of a prosperous age.
Okay, so who gets an invitation to this gathering then?
The invitation is open to the underlying potential within every individual.
Really?
Yeah. The poem contrasts historical views of success with a modern reality. Historically, success and elite status were viewed vertically. Society was a pyramid of power, and you had to climb over others to reach the narrow peak.
Right, very cutthroat.
But this poem views elites laterally.
Lateral success. Okay, explain how that works in the context of the poem.
Well, look at the opening concept. Crowns of elites sing of a prosperous age. In a modern context, those elites are the everyday strivers across all different fields.
So not just the CEOs.
Exactly. One might be a software engineer, another a dedicated nurse, another a teacher, another an artist. They aren't competing for the same spot at the top of a vertical pyramid. They are expanding the base of society laterally.
Ah, I see.
The prosperous age is built by the collective energy of diverse individuals, all bringing their unique, mastered skills to the table.
So it's less about surviving a corporate Hunger Games and more about assembling the Avengers.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Like, everyone has a different superpower, a different domain of expertise. And unlocking your specific potential makes you an essential part of this gathering.
Right. The true gathering of elites happens when we stop comparing ourselves vertically and start contributing laterally. Your specific passion, when realized and honed, is what grants you entry.
I find that reframing incredibly comforting. It takes this grand somewhat intimidating classical phrase and turns it into a mirror reflecting our own individual potential.
It really does.
But, having potential is nearly the starting line. Actually doing something with it is the agonizing part. If we all possess this latent elite potential, when and how do we actually unleash it?
Well, the poem guides us right into the mechanics of that transition. It moves from the imagery of the gathering to the imagery of taking flight. Specifically, meeting this grand gathering to spread wings and fly.
Okay.
These symbols, the grand gathering and the spreading of wings, they serve as metaphors for life's crucial defining junctures.
The moments where preparation meets opportunity.
Yes. The poem heavily emphasizes the critical importance of reading the moment. It's about recognizing when the conditions are finally right to display your talent, to harness your unwavering belief, and to take decisive action.
Timing is everything.
Exactly. Think of a bird of prey. It doesn't just flap its wings randomly, wasting energy. It waits for the right thermal, the right gust of wind to take flight with maximum efficiency and impact.
Spreading wings to fly is such a universally recognized, almost cinematic symbol of success. It's the viral video, the big promotion,
Yeah.
the launch of a new business.
Right.
But what I find so compelling about this specific analysis is what comes next. Because usually society only celebrates the takeoff.
We love an overnight success story.
We obsess over it. We fixate on the visible win. But the later lines of this poem get their hands dirty. They dive into the actual mechanics of effort.
They really do. The author explicitly strips away the comforting yet dangerous illusion that success is merely a product of good luck, natural genius, or just being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Let's examine the specific phrasing the poet uses. They say, broad enterprises require diligence to unfold, and high achievements require ambition to gather excellence.
Diligence and ambition.
And the Chinese characters used here carry deep weight. Xin for diligence and Zi for ambition. This isn't just about showing up. It frames achievement as the ultimate, unavoidable result of long-term accumulation.
It's the grind.
It is relentless. Grinding consistency, it's holding a clear direction and sticking to your core beliefs, especially during those long stretches when the wind isn't blowing and flight seems impossible.
It makes me think of the mechanics of a recurve bow.
Oh, go on.
When you watch archery in the Olympics, the moment everyone cheers for is the release. The spreading of wings, the arrow flying perfectly through the air and hitting the bullseye. That is the visible success.
Sure.
But the actual power driving that arrow has nothing to do with the release.
The power is generated in the draw.
Right. The power comes from the slow, agonizing, muscle-straining draw of the bowstring. It's the archer pulling back against the immense physical resistance of the bow's limbs, storing massive amounts of potential energy through sheer, shaking effort. That tension, that slow draw, is the diligence and ambition the poem talks about. The late nights, the failures you learn from, the clear direction you held onto despite the resistance. You simply cannot have the beautiful, effortless flight of the arrow without the brutal, unseen tension of the draw.
That is exactly it. And by placing those two concepts, the glorious cinematic flight and the gritty, agonizing diligence within the same elegant classical structure, the poet elevates the everyday grind.
They make the hard work beautiful.
They are declaring that the slow draw of your bowstring, your daily discipline, is just as poetic and just as worthy of a classical ode as your ultimate victory.
Which brings up a fascinating question about the origin of this piece.
Okay.
Understanding the mechanics of potential, the hidden vertical acrostic layers, the profound respect for unseen hard work, it all funnels down into why poetic mindfulness actually sat down to write this. Because this isn't just an abstract philosophical essay on how to be successful.
No, not at all. It is designed as a profound, targeted blessing for someone else.
That's the crazy part to me.
It reveals the true heart of the poem. It functions as a modern carrier of encouragement and positive energy. The author is taking abstract support, all those nebulous good vibes and high hopes we try to send to the people we care about, and transforming them into a tangible, structurally perfect reality.
Wow.
The concluding lines shower the recipient with phrases wishing them well, speaking of eternal fortune arriving, and maintaining a joyous heart through all seasons.
Let's contextualize this for a second, because we live in a hyper-fast, frictionless society.
We do.
If a friend of mine is starting a new job, moving to a new city, or launching some massive project, I can instantly text them a thumbs up emoji. I can send an animated good luck GIF. I can drop a quick heart on their social media update.
It takes half a second.
It takes exactly 2 seconds and it costs me nothing. So why does a meticulously crafted classical poem carry so much more emotional weight as a blessing today?
Well, the key word you just used is frictionless. In our digital age, communication has been stripped of almost all its friction. We are bombarded by cheap words.
Because they're easy.
They're cheap because they require no time, no sacrifice, and no real effort to produce. But this poem, the sheer friction required to build this is staggering.
The friction is the point of the gift.
Exactly. The careful, agonizing layering of the acrostic puzzle, the strict adherence to the rhythmic breathing of the seven-character ancient verse, the painstaking selection of vocabulary that carries deep historical resonance but still speaks directly to modern ambition. All of that requires immense, deliberate friction. It forces the creator to slow down their own life to build something permanent. And in turn, it forces the recipient to slow down their life to appreciate it.
It's the difference between buying a mass-produced generic greeting card off a rack and hand-carving a piece of custom furniture for someone you love.
Yes.
The greeting card is a nice gesture, sure. But the hand-carved furniture carries the literal physical weight of the hours, the splinters, and the focus you spent making it.
That invisible weight of time is what makes the blessing feel so incredibly grounded. When someone receives a poem crafted with this level of intensity, they aren't just reading the words "good luck."
Yeah.
They're holding the hours of thought, the complex structural design, and the deep, unwavering intention of the creator. It proves that when words are crafted with that level of deliberate friction, they cease to be mere sentiments.
They become an action.
They become a powerful active force. They connect human lives and uplift the spirit in a way that a disposable 2-second text message simply cannot replicate.
It basically becomes a physical manifestation of your belief in another person. I mean, you wouldn't spend days agonizing over acrostic ancient verse for someone if you didn't genuinely believe they had the elite potential to draw that bowstring back and spread their wings.
Right. The medium truly is the message here. The sheer effort invested in the poetry validates the ambition and the potential of the recipient.
So as we pull all these threads together, what does this deep dive mean for us as we navigate our own modern lives? We've taken an incredible journey through Gathering of Elites by Poetic Mindfulness. We've discovered how a living creator utilizes the boundaries of a classical poetic form and an ingenious hidden acrostic structure to deliver a really profound message for today.
We've seen how the poem completely reframes our concept of success, moving us away from a vertical pyramid of historical elites and toward a lateral expansion of unique individual talents, building a prosperous age together.
And we've looked at the mechanics of effort through the lens of a recurve bow, recognizing that the glorious moment of taking flight is entirely dependent on the unseen, muscle-straining tension of daily diligence and ambition.
Absolutely.
And finally, we've explored the enduring power of a well-crafted blessing. We've seen how injecting deliberate friction and effort into our communication creates a bond of support that cheap, disposable technology just can't match.
It serves as a beautiful reminder that the ancient forms and our modern voices are not at odds. The ancient frameworks are simply waiting for our modern experiences to fill them with new life.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We exist in a world overflowing with instant, frictionless communication where a message can be sent to 1,000 people at the push of a button. So what is your version of a hidden layer? How can you craft a message of support for someone in your life today that requires them to look a little closer? How can you introduce a little bit of beautiful, intentional friction into your encouragement, forcing someone you care about to pause, step out of the rush of the modern world, and truly feel the genuine effort you put into cheering them on? Keep looking for those hidden layers.